Welcome to a special edition of the Under-Season Barbecue Show, and we have a guest in the studio, and she is a true badass of the barbecue community. You were born in Australia, you are now based in Texas, you're a live fire cook, a meat science nerd, you're the founder of Hardcore Carnivore, the brand, which has a crazy cult following. You're the author of Hardcore Carnivore, the book. You've been a guest expert on Beat Bobby Flay, and you've been the host of Aussie Barbecue Heroes, New Zealand's Cooks on Fire, and you've been the co-host of Barbecue Quest. You now have your own TV show, which is wild, on the outdoor channel called Hardcore Carnivore, going into season 2. Now, that's crazy because normally things don't make it out of pilot, let alone season 1, let alone season 2. You're the co-founder of the Australasian Barbecue Alliance, and you're a bit of a trailblazer in an industry that I would say it doesn't give out titles very easily. You know, can be a tough crowd, the barbecue community, so you've really got to earn your stripes, and earn your stripes you have. So welcome to the studio, Jess Pryles.
And you know what no one else knows, is that you've been there since nearly the very beginning. You probably gave me my very first shot in barbecue as far as letting me host a barbecue competition. That was the first official thing that I'd done around barbecue.
Well, I will say all I did was give you a roll and put a camera in front of you, and then you've done the rest from there, really. That's really what happened. So definitely on your stripes. So it's a pleasure to have you in the studio, and I can't believe you're here in Port Macquarie. It's like full circle.
I know. I got all nostalgic being back here. I'm stoked.
Cool. All right. Let's get started. It's a tradition on the show. We always get started with fuck up of the week. Obviously, this episode's going to be a bit different because it's a special edition, but this is not different. This is basically where we've asked you to tell us about a time where you fucked up. And this is a very unusual looking picture of what looks to be a brisket covered in bacon in an oven. And I don't know what's going on here.
It's the PTSD that's going on over here. The very first brisket I cooked, this is obviously a artist's rendering of it because no one took a photo because I didn't want to remember that thing. But I'd come back from one of my trips to Texas. I'd gone to my Australian butcher and I'd asked them for a brisket. And this was a very different time for meat in Australia. And they'd given me what I now know is a completely trimmed, rolled brisket flat. And I got it home and I'm like, this doesn't look right. And I'd planned it to cook it in the oven the whole time, which is just like embarrassing. But I didn't have a smoker. You couldn't get smokers at the time. And so I sent a couple pictures to friends in Texas and I'm like, what is this? They're like, we don't know, but it doesn't look like it has enough fat on it. So I thought that if I draped it in bacon, it would be okay. And it was not okay.
It does sound okay in principle.
Not in theory, because usually if you are cooking just a brisket flat on its own, it usually needs some kind of liquid to braise in, and it did not have said liquid. So it was dry, and it was tough, and it was bacony, which I don't like my beef to taste like bacon. I love bacon in context. Like I would never wrap a steak in bacon.
Okay.
Would you?
Pancetta maybe, but not bacon.
Okay. But like, you know how sometimes they do like an eye fillet or filet mignon wrapped in bacon?
Yep.
I'm out.
Okay.
I want beef to taste like beef.
Well, in hindsight, I suppose, you now know different. But back in the day in Australia, you could not get a decent brisket to save your life. All you could do was go to the butcher and they would give you what they would technically roll, and they'd unroll it and give it to you as a brisket. But it probably was only 2 inches thick.
Yeah, if that. That's being generous. Yeah. That's being generous. And it was lean, and the animals were younger then, so they were just on the whole smaller. And you need a minimum size brisket to make it work, and this wasn't it.
Yeah. Well, the issue is Australian butchers can only handle certain size beasts in a butcher shop, so they tend to buy small ones and you can't get a decent brisket off them. So now we're so fortunate you can get good briskets anywhere, but they generally come back straight from the abattoir.
Yeah, from the processing plant, yeah.
Okay, next one here. Oh. This one is melted handles? What the hell is this?
That's exactly what it is. That is the handle on my charcoal chimney because that's how I light all my grills, right? And this one time, I stack it extra full because I love having a lot of charcoal. The biggest mistake you can make is not having enough. So I stacked it extra full. I had my high heat glove on, thank goodness, because when I went to grab that handle to dump it out, I felt the handle go squishy in my hand, and I pulled my hand away and it looked like chewing gum coming off the handle. It was melted plastic, and if I hadn't been wearing that glove, that would have been my hand on there. So that is what I consider my fuck up but save of the week maybe, since I at least was wearing that glove. And that was a little bit scary.
Well, I've got to say, I pick up the things without gloves all the time, so this is a lesson maybe not to do that.
You can't trust plastic around fire. You know what I mean?
Yep. Okay, let's move on from the fuck up of the week. And I've asked you to give me a list of dishes that changed everything. So there are certain times in my life where food has stopped me in my tracks. I sort of wonder why I've got this old and only just experienced it, or it's that good where you just can't forget about it. And like sometimes it's happened with barbecue, with pizza or whatever it is, and you get home and you kind of, you start to fascinate about it. And so I've asked you to give me a list of those times. And this one here, you can talk me through what's going on here.
This is in Guanajuato, Mexico. That is a pork carnita. So they take like a pork shoulder and they put it in a bunch of manteca, which is pork fat, and they cook it slowly. It's nearly like a confit situation till that shoulder gets really, really tender and it crisps up on the edge because it's cooking in fat. But Texas is literally a neighbor with Mexico. And there are so many incredible towns, not just the usual tourist towns, that have amazing individual like cuisines and dishes and stuff like that. So since I've moved to Texas, I've really been enjoying exploring the foods of Mexico. And this is a great example. They take that carnitas and then they make it into a sandwich, that's it there, called the guacamaya. So they rip the bread out, and they stuff it with carnitas. Then they put pork cracklings or pork rinds, and then they'll spoon like really fiery, fresh salsa over the whole thing. And the salsa's really watery, so that starts sort of like softening the pork rinds, and then you just eat the whole thing as a sandwich. And this particular sandwich is local to this city of Guanajuato. So just all of the exploration of this fresh, delicious food has been completely eye-opening to me, and especially introduction to new ingredients. Like I learned to cook much better with chilies and dried chilies once I moved over there.
Okay, and that looks like a Vietnamese roll sort of style? Is it like a fluffy white bread?
Yeah, it's similar to a baguette. It's called a bolillo roll. It's pretty common for them to use in tortas sandwiches over there. So, yeah, you can imagine how delicious that is, right?
Like just a sponge for all those juices, right?
Exactly.
God. Okay, let's move on to... That looks absolutely phenomenal, by the way.
I'm telling you, and it was like $4 or something like that. Maybe $3.
Okay, moving on. This next one here is a bit of a weird one.
Art's Rib House. It doesn't exist anymore, and Austin doesn't look like that anymore. This was on South Lamar. This was the very first barbecue I ever had. This was my first taste of Texas barbecue, and I ordered the beef back ribs, and like no one would cook back ribs now because there's not a lot of meat on them. It's mainly just bone. And by all accounts, it's like by today's standards, it wasn't very good barbecue, but at the time, do you remember what your first barbecue was?
Yeah, and it wasn't good either. It was in Denver, but it was so not good but good at the same time. Like in hindsight now, it wasn't good barbecue, but at the time, it blew my mind.
This is exactly what this was. Like this doesn't look like a great plate of barbecue, and you can see the ribs are shiners. You see a lot of bone on there. But at the time, it was like, oh my God, this is smoky and salty and fatty, but fatty in a good way where it's just like rendered down to liquid gold. And we had just never tasted anything like that before. And I remember it vividly.
Yeah, I agree. My experience was very, very similar to the point where I could not get it out of my head when I got home.
Yeah, I mean, it was enough for me to move to Texas.
Okay, moving on to the next one here. The chicharron?
Yeah, bad photo, great food item. That's got a chicharron. This was in another one in Mexico, Monterrey, Mexico, at Carniceria Ramos. And they do these, they call it chicharron prensado. It's basically a giant pork crackling again, or they'd call it, a crackling in Louisiana. And it's got the fat, the meat, the skin on there as well, and they just cook it in its own fat until it crisps up. It's not greasy. This is how it looks like in the actual meat shop. So you go in, they've got it nearly like, the popcorn warmers. It's just filled with chicharron, and you buy it by the pound. They put it in a bag, and it is so good. It's got the best texture, incredible flavor. It comes with a side of cholesterol medication.
That's what I was just about to say. It's good for your cholesterol.
That's it. You go to gym on other days, eat chicharron the rest of the time.
It looks fantastic.
It is. It's the essence of porky goodness.
It's got the char on the outside. Obviously, the fat's all rendered, but at the same time, it's like almost like jerky in the fact that it's chewy, but it's still soft.
Well, you know how sometimes you get crackling, it can be really hard to eat?
Yep.
Like even though it's crunchy. So this is the perfect texture. The fat is rendered. It doesn't leave a greasy feeling in your mouth. The meat is chewy, but not hard to chew through. And the crackling is just like a soft, firm crack. And I think that's part of what makes it so amazing, because you can get pork crackling crispy, but it's hard to get it the exact right texture.
Yeah, well, I can't say I've seen it anywhere other than Mexico. And obviously there's places in the States where you'd be able to get it, but I haven't seen it anywhere else.
Yeah, Louisiana is another big one that does it in those Cajun meat markets. They do the Louisiana-style cracklins, but Monterey in particular, big meat city. There's like 8 million, I think, even more than that actually, people there. It's a big city.
See, okay, next one here. This looks unusual.
Yeah, it does until it looks normal until you know what it is. So that on the right, that is a cloned cow, and that steak on the left is meat from her son, who was also a clone. Both of his parents were a clone, so she was a clone, and there was a bull called Alpha, and the progeny of both of those was that steak there. That had been in the freezer for 8 years at West Texas A&M University, which is in Canyon outside of Amarillo, and we cooked it up. We actually cooked it up for season 2 of the show. But what I find really interesting about this, aside from the fact that it's a gorgeous tomahawk, a lot of people don't understand that meat is safe to freeze for as long as you can handle freezing it. It will only not be safe if you let it come up to temperature, like go above fridge temperature, basically. There are some quality issues that can happen, but as long as it stays frozen, it's always safe to eat. So it always breaks my heart when I hear about people kind of throwing out meat that, you know, they think, oh, it's been in my freezer for 2 years, so it must not be good anymore.
Yeah, you sometimes hear people saying like 6 months or 12 months 2 years.
You can see these parts here that are kind of brown. That's oxidative rancidity. It's also AKA freezer burn. That's basically where the vacuum packaging has been compromised and a little bit of air's gotten in. It's still safe to eat. It just might not sort of taste the best. So if that does happen with something that you've got in the freezer, you can just trim it away and eat the rest.
Yeah, okay.
Don't chuck it out.
All right. On to the next part. That was some delicious meals, by the way.
Yeah.
You've been pretty fortunate. You've travelled a lot, haven't you?
I have travelled a lot. It's been incredible to be Australia is so far from everything, and we're really good travellers, but it's so much easier when you're starting from a base that it's not as far to go.
Yeah, there's a lot of places a lot closer to you than they are to me.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, top 5 people in barbecue. So this is a bit of a tough one, right? Because I'm putting you on the spot. Obviously, there's hundreds of great people in barbecue, but I've asked you to narrow it down. So it's a difficult process. I'm going to get you to talk about each person and why you picked them in your top 5. And starting with Billy Durney.
Billy Durney. So Billy has Hometown Barbecue in Brooklyn. And Billy is he's my mentor. He went on a barbecue journey around the same time I did, like threw himself into live fire cooking, learned a lot from Wayne Miller as well, and then went to his hometown of Brooklyn and started this barbecue joint. That has been so successful because he just focused himself on the craft, that he started this amazing Red Hook Tavern. It's got one of the most viral burgers you've ever seen. That's, you know, it's like a 50-50 blend of muscle and fat that Pat LaFrieda makes for him. He's got hanger steak in there. Like, what I admire most about Billy is he was a kid from Brooklyn who was just trying to do his best. He actually used to work in private security for celebrities. He was a bodyguard.
Wow.
And he found his passion and applied himself, and now he's considered one of the most influential people in food in New York. That is a big thing to achieve.
Yep.
And along the way, he's just been really honest with me and frank about advice and feedback, you know, and sometimes it's stung a little bit, but you need people around you who'll be honest, and he's been that guy for me.
You definitely don't need people around you in life that just say yes and tell you everything you do is great. So having people around you that give you the honest truth is worth a lot.
Yeah.
And I will say this about him and Hometown is, if you're looking at New York, it'd have to be number 1, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, moving on. Chris Lilly.
Crisco. He calls me Jesco. I call him Crisco. It's a whole thing. Chris is one of the first barbecue people I met who I was like, oh, he's really famous, and I was really nervous to meet him. I met him at the American Royal, and now we are Kingsford ambassadors together. So we end up doing a lot of gigs together, and we've had a lot of great nights with some brown whiskey together and some fun stories as well. And he is the nicest person, and I don't think he gets enough credit for how well he can write a menu. Like, if you go to the stuff that he does live that's not in competition barbecues, of course, with Big Bob Gibson, he's won a ton of stuff, especially at Memphis in May. But he is just a great cook. He does these like cold smoked tuna taco things, and you can see it in his cookbook. The way he designs a menu, the way he writes, the way he cooks over live fire. I think we all know him as a competition barbecuer, but his ability to create dishes is really impressive.
Yeah, and this could be wrong, but I think he has more world championships thanks to Memphis in May than anybody.
I think that might be right.
Yeah,
he's up there.
He's right up there. Okay, Melissa Cookson might have more. Tuffy Stone, I think he's beat Tuffy Stone, but I can't think of anyone else. So, he mastered that Memphis in May. If you go see his setup at Memphis in May, which you've obviously seen, there's trophies everywhere.
Yeah, and he's now handing on to his sons, Andrew and JJ, and I think that's cool because it was a generational thing to start with, that he got into it because his wife's family was part of Big Bob Gibson. That's who it was, which is why he doesn't have the name Gibson. I don't know if anyone has figured that out, but it's keeping on going through the generations, which is really cool to see.
Yep. So next is John Miller.
This is a tough one.
He's passed away.
He has passed away. John taught me to cook. John taught me to barbecue. He had a trailer at the time in Austin called J. Miller Barbecue, which then became John Miller Meat Co. That was him. He taught me how to cut brisket. He taught me how to cook. I used to do overnight cooks with him. John Miller Meat Co. that then turned into something else, and he used to run Louis Miller back in the day, or work with his dad Bobby, who was at Louis Miller Barbecue. The thing is, he was just a rotten human being, and we all say that with love. He also taught Ali, who's now at La Barbecue, because his sister was Leanne, who has also passed away. Ali learned to cook from John as well, so whether he likes it or not, he spawned another generation of barbecuers. But he used to do things like sell $10,000 shares in companies that he didn't own. Like, that's the kind of human he was. But as far as having barbecue talent, like, it was just natural to him. It was just in his blood. And he could just walk around a pit and have that natural touch and feel knowledge that comes from sort of having grown up in the joint. And so I will always be thankful to him for teaching me and welcoming me into the fold early on.
Was he a good teacher? I mean, some people aren't. A lot of chefs aren't, right? Like look at Gordon Ramsay back in his early days, right?
He would sort of bark at you to tell you what you were doing right or wrong. But he was generous with his time, He liked having you around, and, you had to get past all of the Miller Lite bottles to get to him. But once you did that, I learned a lot.
And that name lives on.
It does. It does.
Okay. Gary McBean, a butcher.
Gary was one of the first butchers that I learned from as well. And this was me. I would go in on the days, there were 2 dark days where he'd get carcasses in, but they wouldn't be open to the public. You can see that's his case behind there. There's nothing in it. And he would let me cut. I had no experience, but he would say, like, this is an RG, this is the spider steak, get on the, change your knife angle, do it this way, and just so generous with his time. But Jay, when you and I started in barbecue, this is what a lot of people don't get. Like, this is before just swaths of people thought it was cool. And so at the time when you approached like pitmasters or butchers and said, hey, can I come learn from you? No one was paying them attention at the time. And it was really uncommon to get those requests. But I still think the fact that he let me in, not knowing anything, nearly like an apprentice, is... I could have messed that up for him. He had to buy that meat and then he had to sell it. So I've just always been appreciative of him just being really generous also with his time. And now his daughter Ash is is an incredible butcher in her own right.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy how it's getting passed down through the generations. And I will say, 15 years ago, even when we were getting into it, he still had an unbelievable butcher shop back then. It's even better now. But his displays have always been amazing.
Yeah, and they've just rebranded. The shop looks absolutely incredible. He always did a lot of stuff with Cape green beef, which is pretty incredible quality. That was invaluable, I think, to the butchery side of things, of me learning.
Yeah, he's definitely been an icon and a pioneer in the Australian butchery industry, that is for sure.
Thanks, Gaz.
And last but not least, Tuffy Stone.
I met Tuffy at Meatstock in Australia for the first time. So I was already living in the States, but we both had to come all the way to Australia to actually meet. I think it was Meatstock Sydney. And Tuffy, they call him the Professor. He's very known for his championship barbecue, much like Chris Lilly, but he's a chef. He's a chef who loves food, he loves flavors, he loves doing things with integrity, whether it's his cooking or just himself. He's a Marine. They call Tuffy the Professor because he's known for his competition barbecue, but he's actually an amazing chef. He's got such a focus on ingredients and also putting dishes together, and he has incredible integrity. Like, he gives so much of a shit about everything that he does, whether it's like showing up at a competition or doing a demo, and or being a Marine, which a lot of people don't know that he did. I got to know him at Meatstock Sydney, and it was enough to kick off a friendship that I ended up asking him to write the foreword for my book when it was released in the States. And I remember thinking at the time, like, what a legend. I can't believe he's agreed to do this for me. And now I'm lucky enough to call him a friend. We get on the phone every now and again and kind of share war stories, share ideas, share flavors. And he's just a phenomenal human being.
Yeah, he is. He is a phenomenal human. And on top of that, what a lot of people don't know is he also has a catering company, which just so happens to be probably the biggest catering company in Richmond, Virginia. And still to this day, he's passionate about food, not just barbecue, but just about food in general. So the fact that his business with his wife, Leslie, has stood the test of time for, I don't know how long it's been going, 25 years plus, and he's had this amazing career. I just think, he knows food.
Yeah.
And then he translated that French methods and cuisine and understanding into barbecue and went straight to the top.
But that makes sense, right? Because the French method is all about precision, whether it's in like precision of how you're slicing things and consistency. And comp barbecue is about consistency as well. Very precise slices, recreating the same thing over and over with the same result. So that would make sense.
Yeah. And I think when he hit the scene, he took the scene by storm. And what a lot of people don't know about him is he actually hasn't competed in a lot of competitions. I think his success rate is something like 30% or maybe even 40% of either winning or getting a GC.
That's massive.
An RGC or a GC at every event he's attended.
That's huge.
So it's pretty impressive. And I've got a special surprise for you because I asked him, you don't know this, right? But I've asked him to say something about you on the podcast, right? So I reached out to Tuffy and I just said, hey, I'm having Jess on the show. Obviously, you guys are friends. Could we surprise her with a message? So I'm going to play it. Are we ready?
Yes.
I used to have a friend and he had a saying, if you want to get something done, you need to ask somebody who's busy to do it. And I think Jess Pryles is a perfect example of that. Jess is always grinding. As much as she has accomplished, it doesn't seem to be enough. She's just always got her foot on the gas. Her first cookbook was great. She's in the middle of writing her second cookbook right now, and that's a ton of work. I think they just finished filming season 2 of her television show. She's traveling all over the world, emceeing, speaking, teaching. What she's done with her Hardcore Carnivore line is amazing. Those products just fly off the shelf all over the world. She just did 2 new products for that lineup. She just developed a knife, which is amazing. I got to say, the harder you work, the luckier you get. And I think Jess Pryles is a really great example of that.
So that was pretty cool, hey?
Moments like this remind me of how we started and where we started from. And Tuffy is a legend. And to be back here in Port, filming this podcast with you, having Tuffy say those nice words about me is such a full circle moment. And I'm still it's Tuffy Stone, Yeah. It's Tuffy Stone saying this. So I'm very emotional. And I don't usually get emotional.
No, it was pretty cool.
It's really nice.
He's a great ambassador for barbecue. And I think he surrounds himself with people that are like-minded and share his passion, and you're one of them.
Thank you. Thanks, Dave. That's a nice surprise.
It was pretty cool,
yeah.
hey? I'm chuffed with myself for asking him to do that, and chuffed that he did it too. Okay, moving on to the next segment. This is the best according to Jess Pryles. Now, it's a little bit of a segue because I did ask you to pick out the best of a lot of things, and that's pretty difficult, right? Because how do you pick out the best foods you've ever eaten? But you have picked out 3 for me, and am I right in saying that these are things you've eaten this year?
Yeah, I have to qualify this. I don't like the best because there's changes all the time, and sometimes, and you know this better than anyone, you'll give your best and something that was really good 2 years ago might have changed hands, or maybe the quality's gone down. So it's really hard to give food recommendations. And I love so much. So what I decided to do for you was like my most memorable bites within the last year or so, you know?
Perfect. Let's get started.
Cool.
This looks exceptional, and this place is crushing it right now.
Yeah, they are. And they deserve every success. This is Mum Foods in Austin. That is their pastrami. And it is literally the best pastrami I've ever had. And I've had Katz's. This is exceeding that. The brine is incredible. So they do it obviously like traditional pastrami style, but the difference is they smoke it with a Texas offset smoker and post oak. And the flavor and attention to detail and craft is immaculate. Immaculate.
So Katz is my all-time favourite because I haven't tried this, obviously, but Katz doesn't have that sort of smoky flavour.
No, they do. They use a commercial smoker, which is what most pastrami would do. They'd put it in sort of those big, like, you know, aluminium oven things with the racks, and maybe there's a little bit of smoke going in there, but it's not a smoker. Obviously, offset smoker is going to give you the most, you know, rich, dense, but clean smoke flavour. So this just takes it to the next level, and you can see that connective tissue in there, that brisket and that pastrami is falling away. You've got beautifully rendered fat. It is next level. Mark it.
Okay, I need to put it on my bucket list. Next one.
Okay. Oh, Spicy Boys Chicken. This is a trailer in Austin in a brewery. That is their, I think they call it like the tingly one. It's got Szechuan peppercorn in the chicken, which is so brilliant. Underrated. So you get that like numbing, like mild, but like fun peppery heat in there too. Brilliant. Crispy, delicious. I'm here for it.
So on a rating of 1 to 10, and if Chick-fil-A is 5...
Chick-fil-A's a 1, Jay.
Okay, well, it's that good.
Woof. Chick-fil-A, I'm not here for breading. I think that like all chicken sandwiches should have batter, not breading.
Okay.
I don't like Chick-fil-A. I'm not afraid to say it.
Okay. Well, if you look at my credit card statement on previous American trips, there's quite a few Chick-fil-A for me.
That's because your daughter loves it. She's a child, Jay. She doesn't know any better.
Okay, Spicy Boys in
Spicy
Austin,
Boys
Texas.
Chicken. Mm-hmm.
Next.
Oh, Company Burger in New Orleans. It is not just what meets the eye. So this is run by a guy who is obsessed with burgers. Everything is made from scratch. They get the buns made to order, like the sesame seed ratio. You remember that scene in Casino where he's bitching about the distribution of blueberries in the muffin? He's like, I don't like where the blueberries are. There's not enough in this piece. And they're like, what do you want us to do? Do them all by hand? He's like, yes. That is the attention to detail that Adam puts into these. They grind their meat in-house to make sure that the grind comes out how they want with the blend that they want. They use all Creekstone. The cheese is something that he's researched. When they started doing soft serve, he got a specialty machine in. He went to like all of those trade shows to find the right machine that had the right size ice crystals to give it the right creaminess to the soft serve. Like mental, but we get the benefit.
And is it just the one place, or has he got multiple?
Just one place.
Okay, so he's literally putting everything into this one place.
Yep, and it's amazing.
And am I right in saying there's jalapenos on that burger?
That one, yeah. They have a bunch of different styles. Their plain cheeseburger doesn't have all that in it, but they do all these specials. They have a lamb burger sometimes as special that kills as well.
All right, that looks absolutely fantastic. So that's going to move us on to our next section of the podcast, and that's travel, events, and experiences. Now, you've been fortunate enough to travel to lots and lots of places and have some really, really cool experiences, but we've kind of narrowed them down to 3. And the first one is going to be Camp Brisket. Now, tell me all about it. Obviously, I've followed it. I know a lot about it, but for people that are listening or watching at home, What is camp brisket?
So you're saying Romania didn't make the cut? Because I've been there too. Wasn't quite in the top 3. Good country. Camp brisket, it's a thing that Texas A&M puts on in conjunction with this thing called Foodways Texas. But it happens every year. There's camp brisket, which happens in January, and then there's barbecue camp that happens like around the summer in June, July. And it takes place at the A&M, used to be in the Meat Science Centre, which is what this is. And it's this 2-day camp that anyone can go to. There's a 5-year waiting list to get into this thing now. And you just learn about brisket for 2 days. You hear from pit masters on panels talking about wood, talking about the raw product, talking about everything. And I went to barbecue camp as a student, I think in 2015 or 2014 for the first time. And now I'm the opening speaker at brisket camp every year. So that's been a really nice full circle moment in my career as well. And I used to talk about the difference between restaurant and competition style barbecue, especially with like that experience from the ABA. And then I pivoted the presentation now. There are a lot of pit masters talking, and most of the people in the audience are home cooks. So my presentation talks about how to take the advice that you're given and apply it to home, because it is very different cooking on a 1,000-gallon offset smoker to cooking on a backyard unit that's about this big. And so I've tried to find a way to make that a really useful section to translate that stuff back home.
Yeah, and a good example of that would be if you go to a really good Texas barbecue joint and you feel their briskets after they've been wrapped and they're about to get held, they're just so jiggly and wobbly, right? And with all due respect, when you see a sort of like someone on YouTube try and recreate that experience, they never ever look the same.
No, it's not.
They cut them and they do the reveal and they kind of stack them, and you just don't have that feel that you get from those. I don't know. Potentially, they've perfected the art of it because they're doing so many of them in big 1,000-gallon pits, and people are trying to do them at home on a pellet cooker or a small pit. And I've never really seen anyone get it right on YouTube yet.
Dude, that's what no one talks about, okay? No one talks about the fact that these guys are paid as their job with someone else often, if you're not the owner of the joint, paying for the meat that you're cooking. So you get to stand there and literally be paid to learn what it's like to feel, because maybe you're cooking 50 briskets a day in and day out. That is the best way to get really good at something, is to repeat it to the point where, I've cooked enough steaks now that I can just tell by feel. I don't know what need a thermometer, but it's taken repetition. So if you get to do it and be paid to do it, like imagine if we got paid to go to college, you know what I mean? Like we'd all be really good at it. So I think that's what I also tell people, go easy on yourself, because these guys have the experience.
Yeah. So look, I just think it's pretty cool how you started as a student and you've ended up as a lecturer.
Yeah, I guess I never thought of it that way. It is cool. I am proud of myself.
Okay, let's move on to the next one. It's the Iowa State certificate.
This is my certificate in meat science from the graduate school. I got to a stage where I felt like I knew a lot, but I felt like I didn't get credit for as much as I knew. And I also wanted a more formal education on it, because I was sharing a lot of stuff online. It was ethically important to me personally to get that stuff right. And so I'd run out of sort of day-long programs that I could do. And I found this, and I had to apply it to the graduate school. I did not have the prerequisites for science, and in the States, a degree is 4 years long, so they didn't consider my 3-year degree enough. So I had to get permission from the graduate school for only having a 3-year prereq, had to get permission from the meat science school for not having science subjects in an undergraduate, because I did all humanities, so they had to consider my real life experience. And then I got accepted into the program, which was a year long and virtual, would have been hard for me to get anywhere. And we did fresh meat, processed meat. I did a bacon project as part of my finished project, and it's one of my very, very proud moments.
So what a lot of people don't realise is when you talk on Instagram or anything like that, you actually talk with authority, which a lot of people don't.
That was important to me. That was a big part of it as well. Like I said, I used to have meat handouts on, stuff like cold shortening sitting on my bedside table, because that's what I was interested in reading. And I just thought, there's a lot of people out there, slapping meat, and good for them. That's a great entertainment opportunity as well, or whatever you're doing. But I just wanted to know the deeper stuff and get credit for it. So now I have.
Okay, so on to the next one, and this is the Outdoor Channel. Now, for me, this is the ultimate, right? If you're in any kind of industry, to have your own TV show is the pinnacle. Now, you've been a host before and you've been guest judge and all that sort of stuff, but to have your name on something, to have your brand on something, to have 10 men with cameras and microphones, producers, everyone following you around and you're the star, that's a pretty special opportunity. And it's something you've been working at for a long time, kind of honing your craft and who you are as a person. But this is you. This is a show about you and what you're into and what you do. And you're into season 2. So tell me all about it.
Well, yeah. And I actually got producer credit on season 2 as well, which is pretty great. But you know, I've been in the States for nearly 10 years, Jay, and a lot of that stuff happened a little early on in my career, and then it sort of dove down and I didn't get as much sniffing in the TV stuff, or I got opportunities that were really predictable, like, no, we need it to be more game show. And I also got advice, you've heard it here first, well, let's address the elephant in the room. Early in my career, I did a thing for a production company that were trying to sell a concept to Food Network, and I was the host they were considering. And they said, talk with an American accent. They were the ones who told me to do that. And I thought that since they're a proper TV production firm, that's what I needed to do to just be understood in America, which is obviously a much bigger audience. That's why some of the older videos of me you'll see, I went from having an Australian accent to an American accent. The reality now is I have a hybrid accent. I'm back in Australia filming with you, so I sound super Australian. But when I'm at home with my husband, who's American, it goes in between. So I have some words. I'm more likely to say trash than rubbish, things like that now. But this show, I can do exactly what I want. It got to the point where I was like, you know what? I don't want to do a show if I have to be, bullshit it. If I have to do a show that's like, hi, we're going to compete today. You did really well. Like, that's just, it wasn't me. It wasn't worth it in the end. So when this came and it was like, you can go where you want to go. You can visit the people you want to go. You can swear. You get to do what you want to do. No one gets to do that. So I'm so, so lucky. This was season 2, so you haven't seen these episodes yet. I cooked a whole hog with Pat Martin. This was cooking that 8-year-old steak out on the canyon. This is the second biggest canyon in the United States, Palo Duro.
And have you wrapped up season 2? It's not out yet, obviously, but you've wrapped up filming?
Yeah, we finished it last year, actually. Okay. So they hold it and put it out in fall because there is some hunting in it. So yeah, it's all done, and it's actually going to be airing on Taste Made this summer as well.
That's a cool thing.
I don't know if I'm allowed to say that yet, but I just did.
Well, let me know because I could edit it out before.
Nah, just fuck it. We'll do it live.
Well, I just think this is the pinnacle, right? Having your own TV show, being part of something that you help create as well, and you can help steer the direction of what it is, and you also get to put your life into something that is visually represented. And I think there's going to become a point at some stage where you'll get on an aeroplane and your show will be on there. Like, not only it's on TV, of course, right? But the one thing for me is when I get on a Qantas flight and I go to, reality TV or something like that, you look at those shows and there's always a couple of chefs in there and I'm like, those people have made it. They're on the Qantas
They're on
flight.
An aeroplane.
Yeah.
All right, you've given me a new standard to reach, so it's always good to keep hustling.
But I just think... on bigger and better things, and having your own TV show is obviously, there's more to come, I'm sure, but you got to really notch that up as a milestone.
That's a big one,
yeah,
for sure.
Okay, bucket list. You've done a ton of stuff, but there is stuff you have not done.
Yeah, there's always stuff to do. There's always stuff to keep grinding on.
And I asked you to pick out a couple, and this one is called Restaurant AG.
Oh, these are the places that I still need to go and eat, right? So this is in Stockholm. I'm going to do it this year. I'm actually booked. Look at that selection of meat from around the world. That's what makes me excited now, trying different steaks and different types of meat from all around the world. And this is Restaurant AG in Stockholm. What's super cool is this is on the top 10 steakhouses in the world list, and they use Hardcore Carnivore Black on their menu, which is like... amazing. So I'll get to go there in July, finally. Chef Johan Juraskog. Look at that crust. Look at that. I guess you call that a T-bone here. We'd call that a porterhouse in the States.
Yeah, we'd call it a T-bone, but it looks like an A5 Wagyu.
I mean, it can be both. But yeah, they have an amazing dry aging program. So this is a meat must for me that I'll finally tick off the list this year.
I just don't know anywhere else in the world that would be able to get a table of all those steaks. Like, how would you even get that.
I mean, you can see like the Scottish one I really want to try because that's probably Highland cattle. You can see Spain, you can see Argentina, you can see Iceland, Finland. I think Iceland, I know that's
Japan's in
Finnish.
there.
Yeah, and
Sweden,
Australia, of
Australia.
course. Amazing Australian Wagyu. That's Portugal. Like, how cool to be able to taste all of those because they're going to have a different flavour profile as well. And the more that I realise that I've done the meat science thing, I've tried a lot of steak in Australia, I've tried a lot of steak in the US, and then you go and have an experience like eating steak in Italy, which you think is going to be tough because it looks really lean, and then it eats completely differently. And you realize that there is so much left to eat in the world to give you a full picture of beef.
Yeah.
And that's what this is going to do, I reckon. Look at that yellow. Do you see that yellow fat on there? That yellow fat. That's how you know
grass-fed,
that's grass-fed. Yeah, that's the keratin from the grass going through.
It's pretty impressive because usually to get a marbled piece of meat, you're going to have to send it to a feedlot and kind of fatten it up and give it a marbling. So to get that sort of marbling out of a grass-fed cow is still pretty impressive, right?
Yes, but that is probably, I think that was Swedish as well. That is probably a dairy cow. You can see how small that eye was. So what we know about dairy cattle is that they have a good propensity to marble. The actual meat size is just smaller. Oh, that was Portugal. But yes, it is harder to put on fat from grass unless you're feeding really, really good quality stuff like what we see out of Tasmania and Victoria here in Australia. But yeah, that's the hallmark is that yellow fat.
All right, I'm going to get you to pronounce this next one.
Asador extabari. And I'm probably saying it wrong because it's Galician Spanish, so they do the there, I think, Galicia.
All right, before you get started, I looked this place up. It looks pretty cool. It's 280 euros. It doesn't include any drinks. Payment must be made in advance. They have made 4 posts on social media, and they have 66,000 followers from 4 posts.
Mate.
So the place is legit. Like, everyone that must go there must just rave about it to everybody.
I think I've paid $280 for popcorn at 3 movies. Like, you've just got to put it in context, you know what I mean? This is another one that has those, like, the actual beef experience. So they work with a breed called Rubia Gallega, which is a Spanish breed, really big animal, very muscular. And they do an intensive dry aging here. Lennox Hasty worked here and got a lot of his inspiration from being here as well. And yeah, it's just known for being one of the best. But that whole region in Spain has these style of wood-fired, like really super beefy restaurants.
Well, I did look for a lot of photos, and there's not many. Apart from people's photos of eating there, they don't promote themselves at all. So the fact that they've got, I think they say that you have to book at least 4 months in advance.
Yeah, that sounds right.
And that steak looks phenomenal.
Doesn't it look so good? And I bet it just has the most unique flavour as well. That's the thing, is so different when you get to try all these different steaks. So I just want to keep collecting all of these beef experiences.
Okay, on to talking points. Now, this is one that I have shoved into this show here, and it's Hardcore Carnivore. It's a brand that you have built, and I just wanted to maybe address the elephant in the room, but Hardcore Carnivore Black. I could be wrong here, but my guess is, as an independent rub, it would be one of, if not the highest selling single rub on the planet.
I think it's definitely up there. It is our best selling rub. I think it's the most iconic. I came up with black because a lot of people were using activated charcoal in health products at the time, and I thought it'd be interesting to see what sort of texture it gave to meat rubs. I will say there were others out there that I didn't know about till after that I had created this. They sort of, found you after the fact. But I will happily tell you here, and we are taught as Australians not to toot our own horn, but I will on this. I made this and any black rub that you have seen or ever tried popular. So if you've tried an activated charcoal rub or you've seen one, it's because of this.
Yeah.
And this one still tastes the best.
I don't think anyone can deny the first time they ever use this rub, it is a game-changing moment. Like, if you put this on a steak and you cook it, the first time you eat it, you're like, oh, this is good. Like,
yeah.
it stops you in your tracks. You're like, why is this so good? And look, to be honest, I probably use it still to this day. I don't know how long this rub's been out.
2016.
So nearly 10 years.
Yeah.
To this day, I probably use it on every second steak I cook, and I've been using it since day dot.
That's impressive. I think that honestly growing up in Australia had a lot to do with the flavour profile. We have great ingredients here and we like understating things so that to let everything shine. And the Americans, I think, typically their seasonings would have been like big, in your face, coarse, like throw as many ingredients as you can in there. This I really designed to let the meat shine, just to elevate the meat, not to kind of overpower it. And I think that really resonated with a lot of people. I also get a lot of messages from people going, my wife didn't really like steak night until I started to use these. Like, a lot of people's wives really like black, and I wonder if it's something to do with the female palate. But are you going to tell them your connection with Hardcore Carnivore Black?
Only because you segued into it, but I suppose not this particular iteration of your design, but you did ask me to design the labels for the first iteration, which I did. And then obviously you've since taken it to the next level here. But if you look at that lined up on a shelf, that's pretty impressive, the way the colours, the design, the boldness. I remember a big sticking point at the time was separating the hard from the core.
Yeah.
Because carnivore and hardcore were two long words and they just didn't take up enough of the label. I think
it's still a pain in the ass whenever we do merch.
We might have even argued about it for a bit, but I think you can't deny when you look at it like that on the label, it just pops.
It's super strong. And yeah, that was one of the things I remember when we talked about that label. So the short answer is you designed our very first label. This is a new version of it. But one thing that I was sure about was that I wanted a white background and really clear stuff, because I wanted it to feel a little bit different from, like, you know, having a dancing pig on the front or whatever. I wanted you to know that this was premium stuff with premium flavour and that it was different to everything else out there. And I think we got there.
No, I think you've done really well. And obviously you've added to the flavours as time's gone on, and you've added to the entire product range, right? You've got a heap of different stuff now.
Yeah, we say, so now I just say it's products for serious meat enthusiasts, because we've got knives, grilling tools, we've got butcher's paper. There's 9 rubs in the line now and 2 new butter mixes as well, which is another innovative product.
And we're going to get to try one of these today. Yeah?
You will. Will.
All right, I'm looking forward to that. And just to segue out of Hardcore Carnivore, but last but not least, a cookbook. So for people that haven't done a cookbook before, it is so time consuming. And some people do try to cheat it. They cheat the process by kind of like, you know, they have recipes and they have their photos and all the rest of it. But to do a cookbook justice, you kind of got to pad it out. And that's what takes all the time, because you can't cheat it. You've got to literally... It's everything you know down, and that takes time to put down on paper and put it on a cookbook that people are going to really scrutinise.
Yeah.
So I think in Australia, some cookbooks are being started to get called out now because they might be borrowing recipes or
I saw
information,
that.
right? So just the fact that when you do put your name to something that is so important, like a cookbook, it's time consuming.
In cookbook contracts, it tells you how many recipes you have to have in there as a minimum. It does not tell you how much extra information you need to have in there. That's up to you as an author. And, you know, a lot of chefs are incredible recipe developers, but perhaps not great writers. So oftentimes they'll use a ghostwriter who will actually write the book, or they'll say, like, here, watch me write the recipe and you write it down and then you write it up. So there's different ways that you can get around it. I wrote that entire book myself, and I'll be writing the second one entirely on my own as well. And there's a lot of info in there. So Tuffy is the kind of guy that I think would absolutely break his back for a cookbook. You know what I mean? Like, he'd make it so much better than it even needed to be at an excellent stage, because that's the type of guy he is. And it is up to you personally to really put the effort in, because the only thing you're contracted to is the number of recipes in there.
Yeah. Well, you did raise Tuffy's name. I will say this because I just spent a bit of time with him. He's the sort of guy that doesn't care if you're just taking a photo, it still has to taste good. And I'm like, it's just a photo. They won't know the butter's not smoked, and he'll still smoke it for the photo, right? So, I just
imagine if everyone had that level of integrity. Jeez.
Okay, we're going to segue out, but I just do think you've built a brand. It's got recognition. You know, I walk around America, I see people wearing a Hardcore Carnivore t-shirt, and I'm like, oh, do you know Jess? And they're like, oh, no, I follow her, and they're wearing the merch. And it's like, I just think you build a brand that means something. You build products that people use. That's the most important thing. And I think it's a brand that's going to stand the test of time.
Thank you.
Okay. QuickFire questions. So we're going to lighten it up here. Now, I want you to give me a short and punchy answer.
Okay.
No, not too much waffle. It's got to be off
But I'm so good at waffling, Jay.
But it's got to be off the cuff. That's what I want. I don't want you to slow it down and think about it as you go. I just want you to hit me with your honest opinion, right? Because I think that's how we're going to get the truth out of you without you being too, conservative in your responses. Ready?
Yep.
Where's barbecue going to be in 5 to 10 years?
Insanely over the top, weird collabs, and probably swinging right back about to what it was in the first place.
I agree with you, right? Because the fusion in barbecue right now,
It's going off.
It's going crazy,
Yeah.
right? The last 4 years, it's really blown up. I think I called it, I nicknamed it Future Barbecue because I really didn't know what else to do it. But in coffee, there's first wave, second wave, third wave. And I feel like second wave is really where it took off, and then third wave is almost like back to basics. It's like single origin. It's understanding where your meat comes from, in this case, coffee, right? But we're in this boom of barbecue right now where I just feel like it's not just about cooking meat anymore. It's what flavors you can put with it.
Yeah.
So it's gone crazy, and I just see that continuing.
Yeah, and how you can stand out, and it's gone very multicultural. So the techniques are supposed to be predominantly Texan. The brisket has to stay Texan, but other dishes, especially side dishes, can be influenced, and that is great because you get variation, because the other thing that was happening in barbecue was a lot of homogeny. Everything was the same, you know?
Yeah,
like once you reach the standard of brisket, even though it was really good brisket, you know, kind of tastes the same if you go to this place or this place or this place. So it makes it more interesting, but I also feel like I reckon it's going to go further past that stage to where it maybe doesn't even remember its roots, and then it'll come back to it.
Yeah, okay, great point. Next, females in barbecue. There's not many of you.
No, there's not. I hate this question, but I'm glad you asked it. And I hate it because it is
It is
true.
a cliched question, so...
Yeah, but look, it's cliched based in fact, right? But here's my thing with it. And this is part of the meat science certificate. I have busted my ass for the last 10 years to really know what I'm talking about. So there have been times in my career that I've gotten opportunities because I'm female. Like, let's just say they're casting for 3 judges and they need a woman. That's when I might get considered, where maybe I might have been overlooked previously. But for every one of those times, there's 3 times where I missed out on something because I'm a woman. And you just have to trust me on that. A great example of that is like bros who have that relationship, you know, maybe barbecue guys who are friends with other dude celebrities. You can slide into your DMs, and you can't slide into the DM of another man as a woman and it not sort of be a little bit weird. So there's stuff like that that has just been a hindrance. But I have made it my business to be where I am because I'm really good at my job, not because I'm a woman. And that's always been really important to me. And there's a lot of other women hustling as hard as I am, which is just as important. And you'll never see me barbecue in a bikini, let's just put it that way. For a lot of reasons.
You could have a lot more followers. All right. Not in a good way.
Are you going to start your own OnlyFans where you reveal your feet finally?
You know, one time in this studio, I wore a pair of shorts. Now, because he's normally in your seat, his legs are fully tattooed, right? So he can pull off a pair of shorts, but mine were like stark white under the table, and it wasn't a good look. I had to get Denmark, who's our editor, to darken it all up so that it didn't look like I had white legs. Very attractive white legs, though.
Can I tell you, though, there's someone who will pay to see that, Jay.
I don't know who they are, and I don't want to know either. All right, moving on. Last meal.
Really good sourdough, really good salted cultured butter. And I would have normally said ribeye, but I honestly feel like a top sirloin cap or rump cap or picanha culo, whatever you want to call it, is going to get it on this one.
And you're going to use the sourdough for dunking in the juices? Or
no, they can be separate.
Okay.
I just love them both.
Okay.
For very independent reasons.
Go from one to the other, back again.
Back and back and back and back.
Okay, next. Is a pellet cooker a smoker?
Yes, it is not a grill. I wish they had not called them pellet grills, because they are not grills. They're really hot ovens, and if you put a cast iron in there, when you turn it to 500 degrees, that's how you're getting a sear. That is not grilling. Grilling is when you're cooking over live fire, in my opinion. And so I like them as a smoker. I don't like that they're called grills.
Okay, but to take a step back, in America, there's grilling and there's barbecue. Mm-hmm. Barbecue is basically offsetted heat from a firebox,
heat,
correct? Yeah. And then you've got grilling, which is direct heat.
Yep.
In most of the rest of the world, they just call it all barbecue. But specifically, it's very distinct in America, yeah?
Yeah, and when I do classes in Australia, I really encourage people to use both terms because they're very different styles of cooking. First of all, if I get invited around to your house and you're like, come over for a barbecue, and you're actually doing a brisket for 16 hours and I have to stand there and be starving while you're waiting for it to be ready, I want to know about that. But if you're inviting me over because you're grilling something, I know I'm going to have burgers or hot dogs, like something easy and quick, you know, maybe a little bit of pollo asado. But I want us to start using two different terms to describe it.
Okay. All right. Next, the most underrated barbecue joint in the world.
You know you can't ask me that.
No, I'm putting you on the spot, but you've got to spit it out.
Okay. Here's what I'll say. There's an amazing barbecue joint in Jefferson, Texas called Riverport Barbecue, right? Great spot. The problem is it's like 6 hours from Austin. He's really, really isolated in deep East Texas, and he's making amazing food, but you're never going to see TikToks about it, and you're never going to see it on the list because his physical location prevents him from like getting as much recognition as he deserves. Not only that, they're the third poorest county in Texas, so he has to make food to feed the locals as well. So he's trying to make this, you know, really high standard barbecue, but keep the dishes super affordable, and that's not easy to do.
Yeah. So what was it called again?
It's called Riverport Barbecue, and the guy who runs it is Stephen Joseph.
We're getting towards the end of the show. On the menu, this is where you're going to cook something, so I'm kind of a little bit excited about that. Now, we're going to bring up some videos here and go through all the steps, but what are we cooking?
We are going to be cooking a steak, but I want you to be one of the first people in the country to taste the Cowboy butter. So that's our new product that we brought out, that you literally just mix it with softened butter to create instant compound butter. So I am going to, of course, season it with the Hardcore Carnivore Black because I know it's your favorite rub. And I also cook hot and fast, you know, keep flipping that steak as you cook it. I'll try and get it to a perfect medium rare. That's always the aim. And then you just take some of that butter once you've mixed that dry rub into it and smear it straight over the top. Actually, you could smear it over the top, but I've been coming up with this new thing that I've been doing called a butter board, where you smear it on the bottom, you cut the steak and then put it onto the butter so it melts better that way. And then as you pick up each slice, it's perfectly coated in the Cowboy butter.
That's a way better idea.
I know. Butter boards, they're mine. I'm sure everyone else will copy them.
So before we get through the recipe here, the Cowboy butter, it's a new product. Now, I saw a lot of Cowboy butters kind of went viral there for a little bit on the internet there, but to be honest, I've never made one because I look at it, I'm like, that's too many steps. Like, I'll just do a basic compound butter, right? But so you've made a product here where you're just basically mixing it with butter and it's just as good, or?
That's what I like to think. The other thing is that Cowboy butter is not an exact thing. Like, there's different ingredients that go into different versions, but it does have a lot of ingredients. And I thought the idea of just being able to get all of those that simply, and I've used this so much when I've gone like out to do demos in different areas, instead of buying 16 ingredients or whatever it is, you just have that. So it's got like coarse garlic, onion, lemon peel, parsley, like all kinds of stuff in there. And it's just this massive hit of flavor. You'll see. I'm excited for you to try it.
So let's get started with the recipe here. You've got Hardcore Carnivore, and what's the steak?
This is a picanha steak, top sirloin cap or rump cap steak.
And you said before this is your favourite cut at the moment?
I'm having a love affair with this cut. I love the texture of it. I love the beefiness of it. I love the fact that it's got a beautiful fat cap that you get in every bite. I'm here for it.
And it's reasonably priced too.
It is. It's a good price.
So what's happening?
Very generous amount of seasoning. I do a just keep flipping method with my steaks, so I overcompensate on the seasoning a little bit because I'm going to lose some through the grates. Nice hot charcoal and just keep flipping it constantly as it cooks, so it stops it cooking on any one side, but I get a really nice sear, as you see here. We want that fat cap to render out too. I'm moving them like every 30 seconds or so until it reaches an internal temp. I don't know what's going to happen because I didn't have a thermometer, so we just did this off the old feel.
Okay, well the colour looks fantastic.
Yeah.
All right, so you've got them offset. They've been resting for 10 minutes.
Yep.
Let's bring them in. All right, so before we get started with the steak here, I've got the stunt cam out. I'm just going to talk. Can you talk me through what you can see up on the screen there?
This is the Cowboy butter mix. So you start with, I like using salted butter because I like extra salt, but there is salt in the rub. And you just put 2 tablespoons of rub to, stick of butter and get in there and mash it around, and instant compound butter.
All right,
good?
well, it looks fantastic. So
This is what I call the butter board. So instead of putting the butter on top of the steak, I smeared it right onto the board. And that way the steak is going to melt the butter better because it's trapped. That heat is trapped in there. And then as you pick up each slice, you get that absolutely perfect distribution of Cowboy butter.
Let's have a crack.
Going in here. Oh.
Look at this.
This is the first time you've had this.
Steak and butter. Can't beat it, can you? That flavour's great too, isn't it?
I want you.
You got the fat rendered perfectly too.
Listen, mate, I've done this a time or two. Look at that. Look at that.
Looks fantastic.
Just look at that.
You know, you were the one that taught me on TV to take small bites.
Oh, here I am.
And I don't take your advice. Every single time I take a massive bite and I've got to chew through it. That's fantastic. Steaks cook great. Obviously, the Hardcore Carnivore Black's fantastic. And the butter compound Cowboy butter mix. You've got two different ones. What are they?
We've got Cowboy butter and we've got hot honey butter. So I love the Cowboy butter on steaks. Also, I like put it in bread to make like a garlic bread, but Cowboy butter bread. And the hot honey is amazing on like fried chicken, biscuits, scones, whatever.
All right, that was absolutely delicious.
I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah.
It would have been embarrassing if you hadn't.
And I've never seen anyone do a pre-made sort of compound butter mix like that before.
It just makes sense.
Okay, that brings us on to our Encore. It's the wrap-up of the show. Now, I have selected some photos. Normally for Si, I select one photo, but I picked three out because I think it's important. They're photos that you haven't seen maybe in a long time, and I want to get your first impression of each of the photos because I think they all mean something. You ready?
Yep. That was my first and last photo shoot in an actual meat locker. It was freezing. I actually love this photo and I'm glad I took it because I moved away from having myself front and center for a long, long time during that time that I wanted to be taken seriously as a cook. But it's an epic photo, so I'm glad we did it. One of my first meat stocks, probably the first time I was ever a cover girl of a magazine. It was innovative back then, I think.
Well, to put things in perspective, this was nearly 10 years ago. So
Yeah.
me and you go back a long way. This
Yep.
was a cover shoot to promote Meat Stocker Festival, which I still do to this day. I think at the time, it still stands up today. That would
Yeah.
still be a striking cover today. But I thought I'd bring it up because it just highlights how long me and you have known each other.
And it's not AI. It was actually in a cool room. I can't say whose it is because they shirked a few food safety things to let me in there. But we were in there in a gown with a photographer, which was pretty epic. But also, Australia had a big sort of vegan push around that time.
Huge,
Glad
huge.
that's over.
Yeah.
But it was ballsy for the music to make this their front cover too, all things considered.
Yeah, that vegan movement was so strong back then. You know, we had a lot of protests.
Well, they
at
weren't
Meat
strong because they were iron deficient.
Well, that happened later on in life. They lost the willpower to fight.
The energy.
Moving on.
Aw.
Speaking of gowns, so anyone that follows you on social media would know of Chris.
Yep. Well, old well-fed Chris. This is our wedding in 2019, and Judge Wise married us. He actually has a podcast on Texas history. So he's like, "Do you want me to wear the hat?" I'm like, "I want you to wear the hat." And he wrote us custom vows. I'm getting all nostalgic. Chris he's my best mate. He's my partner in crime. We just kind of get each other, you know. People love to see him in videos. They love to see his point of view, and he's the opposite of me. He's tall, I'm short, I'm chatty. He's very quiet and introspective. So I think we make a really good team.
Yeah, I think you do too. And he is rocking that mustache.
He is strong.
It's strong.
It's a full Tom Selleck.
Yeah, he's a very handsome character too, I would say.
He is. That wasn't by accident, Jay. I thought he was a hottie and still do.
Okay, this is the very last image here. Now, it's obvious to me that you're obviously hunting and you've just dealt with maybe a
To
deer.
you, anyone else might think that I've just, I don't know.
Well,
Graphic image.
Yeah, but I've used this as a bit of a metaphor, and I wanted to kind of say that you have been grinding at this for 15 years, this career of yours, right? And it's hard work. It's
Yeah.
fucking not easy. Everything's hard fought. And this just illustrates to me that, you know, nothing comes easy. For some people it does. But you've been working, grinding hard, and I think your career and also where it's going to go. I also still believe you're only halfway through your journey.
Yeah,
So
I don't think I'm done yet either.
you've got a long way to go. You deserve all the success that you've achieved this far and what's coming to you.
Thanks, mate. I appreciate that. And it means even more coming from you.
All right, that wraps up the episode. I've had a good time.
I've had a great time. If we lived closer.
I know, we could do this all the time.
All the time.
But there's so much to talk about. We've only just scratched the surface, really.
Yeah.
So I feel like maybe at some point we might do a part 2.
Let's do it. I'm up for it.
I hope you've enjoyed it too. Jess Pryles, the one and only, thanks for coming out to Port Macquarie and being part of the Under Season podcast.
Thanks, Joe.